Hi, I'm Bucks County District Attorney Jen Schorn. I'm here with my colleague and fellow prosecutor Christine Sassane, who's the chief of our crash investigation unit, and we're also here with Chief Steve Mawhinney, who is a longtime Bucks County member of law enforcement, but also leads the Bucks County District Attorney's Office crash investigation team. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
We're here today because obviously we've discussed this very important issue, and we're seeing an increase in the number of cases involving teen and young adult drivers where speed is the contributing factor, and the results are pretty catastrophic in that we're seeing serious crashes that involve, serious bodily injury and at times fatalities. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that and raise awareness on this issue. So with that, I would love to turn it over to you first, Chief Mawhinney, and explain a little bit more about what you're seeing as it relates to teen drivers and young adult drivers where speed is a concern.
As you're aware, your office sends me out to accidents where there is serious bodily injury or possible loss of life, and I go out to assist other departments. So being in that role, I wind up traveling all over Bucks County when these calls come in, myself or one other member of the team. What we're seeing is these tragic accidents with children driving the cars, 16, 17, 19 years old, that are driving cars, and they're driving them at extremely high speeds, shockingly high speeds. Anytime you bring more speed to a crash, you bring more energy. When you bring more energy, you bring more violence. And the violence is really seen right there. As soon as one of us shows up, or somebody from your office shows up, we see this carnage. And what is bringing this carnage? It's coming from the speed that these kids are bringing to the party.
Chief, I have to level with you. When I was a teen driver, I was fully aware to never drive while impaired. I mean, that was a lesson that was taught at an early age. The awareness was out there, the dangers of driving under the influence or impaired. And it's something I would never do, and, anyone in my circle would never do. But I didn't fully understand how speed could be a factor that could result in criminal consequences for a driver. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
The speeds that we're seeing constant speeds in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even 100 mile an hour in these kids involved in these crashes. And you have to wonder why. And there's things that discussed. I go around the nation teaching for one of the universities, and when I go around, we talk about these things in class and what's causing these accidents and these high speeds. And we're looking at a couple different suggestions. We're not saying this is definitely it. One of them could be the games that they're playing or the influence of Hollywood. Hollywood loves to show fast cars racing down the road, and everybody walks away at the end. Nobody gets killed. Nobody gets hurt. That's one of the things. The video games, they push the button, they reset the button, and everybody plays another round of video games. So this continually goes on. The peer pressure. You can beat them, go faster. And the peer pressure, or just the machoism. And I also think that some of the cars that these kids are being given access to, the engineers are doing a fantastic job of making these cars smoother. Back when I was young, when you stepped on that gas pedal, you felt the energy, you heard the roar of the engine. Well, these cars now are almost luxury cars, and they're very easy to get up to 90, 100 mile an hour, lickety-split, because it's just so easy now, and you don't really notice it. Teens, as we mature, we see speed limit signs on the side of the road, we get tickets, and that tells us to slow down. We get used to looking at the speed limit sign that says 25, 35, looking down and seeing we're doing 45. As a youngster, they don't have that experience. They're just not used to it, and they're given these high-powered machines to go out and allowed to get stupid with.
Yeah, and we talked yesterday when we were, preparing for this campaign to raise awareness that, it's a double-edged sword. These vehicles oftentimes come with great safety features, but because of the performance, as you mentioned, sometimes it catches the driver unawares that they're going at such an excessive rate. And I thought that was such an important factor that you shared, and thank you for sharing that again. I'd like to turn it over to Christine for a minute to speak about some of the things you see, especially this time of year, as it relates to crash cases.
Yeah, so I think the crash team, as the weather gets warmer, the sun is out, we sometimes refer to it as motorcycle season, but we are seeing these younger teen drivers as proms coming up, graduations coming up, and summers coming up. That this is actually the time of the year where we see the most teen driver involved crashes between Memorial Day and Labor Day, also referred to as like the 100 deadliest days. We see 30% of the fatal crashes involving teen drivers just during those summer months. So as the weather now gets warmer, that's something that we're cognizant of and hoping to bring awareness to.
Yeah, when you say the 100 deadliest days, I mean, that resonates. That sends the message. And it's something that with prevention and awareness, I really believe we can reduce those statistics. You mentioned when we were discussing this campaign to raise awareness, another pretty staggering statistic as far as the leading cause of death among teens.
Yeah, so motor vehicle crashes, unfortunately, are the leading cause of death among teenagers. Pennsylvania, again, during those summer months, we have the most teen driver fatalities, the 10th most teen driver fatalities across the country. So these crashes are having catastrophic consequences, resulting in, like Steve said, either serious injury or loss of life. That's something obviously we never want to have to deal with, but that's why we're here to bring awareness.
And it's unique in that, a lot of what we do, and I know you handle homicide prosecutions, and throughout your career, Chief Mawhinney, you have as well, where we prove that someone they decided intentionally to commit an act or with knowledge to commit an act. And this is an interesting factor in that the vast majority of drivers who are speeding may not intend the consequences, but how can we convey to, especially our younger drivers, the criminal consequences, the life-altering criminal consequences or life-ending criminal consequences that can ensue if they're driving at excessive rates of speed that results in a crash. So either one of you, if you want to shed some light on that.
The kids that we're dealing with are good kids. These are not problems. These are good kids. These are kids that are about to graduate or a year from graduating. They're going to go out into the workforce. They're going to go to trade school, or they got college acceptance letters already. And now they're going to make a decision to, instead of doing, sign says 45, I'm going to do 110. And we're having these tragic endings and change of life. You're not going to an Ivy League school no more. You're not going to Westchester. You're going to jail. Very sad.
Tell us about some of the cases that you've prosecuted where speed is the sole factor.
So I've had a handful of teen driver cases where speed was the sole factor. I had a case down in Lower Makefield. I believe Steve helped with that case as well. Teen driver, newer BMW car that he was driving. He had two friends in his vehicle. They were driving on Dolington Road. He was doing 113 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone. There was a dip in the roadway, a slight curve, and he just didn't expect it, and he went right into a tree. Thankfully for him and his passengers, there were no fatalities in that crash, but the aftermath, friendships were severed, families were pitted against each other. It was horrific. I know the injuries sustained, are lifelong for those individuals. So, yeah,
and Chief Mawhinney, could you elaborate on some of the scenes you've been to, where obviously that's a necessary part of your investigation, to respond to these scenes where there's oftentimes significant casualties. Tell us about some of the things you see when it's speed, when it could have been completely prevented.
A lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time when there's energy, the scene's going to be bigger. It's like if you have a 35 mile an hour hit in an intersection, two cars stay right there. They're not going very far. But some of these we get to, and I ask the officers that are there, where's the other car? And they point down the road, and it's almost out of sight. I remember one on 611. That was It wasn't a teen driver, but the speed was 142 mile an hour on 611. And
142 miles per hour.
well, my math came 142 to 154. And that's what the gentleman was charged with. And he killed a young girl in that. And that was, but when I said, where's the other car? They pointed down there. And when I looked, I couldn't see it. The other car had stopped so far away. And that's what you get with these scenes. I mean, you look at the cars and they're mangled up terribly. But not only that, they're huge. The scenes are huge because there's so much energy coming to the party. It's got to get spent somewhere.
Sergeant Mawhinney, or excuse me, Chief
Ooh, that was a
Mawhinney.
long time ago.
Chief Mawhinney, when you see someone going 15 miles per hour over when the posted speed limit is, say, 55, is that still a significant deviation from the speed limit?
It is a deviation. And one thing that most drivers don't take into account, is that when you change that, they change the foot per second. You know, everybody talks about miles per hour and accidents, how fast they were going. You want me to tell you in miles per hour. But accidents happen in seconds. So when you take it and you change it to feet per second, that is a big difference. And if you're asking for stopping distance, the stopping distance increases tremendously. The one Christine was talking about, the young boy at 25 mile an hour can bring that car to a stop. We're at 113, that car's not stopping. Yeah. It's just not going. No matter how hard he lays on those binders, it's going to leave some nice skid marks, but it's not going to stop. And that's the big problem we have.
So, final message, obviously, is to our community always to remind all drivers to never drive impaired or under the influence of any substance, but to be mindful of the absolute lethality of speed. And that's something so within our control. And by raising awareness, we're not only talking to the drivers, but the message is also to the parents, right? And I'm a mom of a teen driver. And every night and every day, I wait to know that my child gets home safely. And my husband and I have an app on our phone where we can monitor the driving. What are your thoughts collectively? You can both share your thoughts on advice now, kind of speaking to the parents or, loved ones of the teen drivers.
I think one of the biggest things we see aside from the speed is obviously just the driver's inexperience. A lot of these crashes are happening a month, 2 months, 3 months after they get their license. So just supervision from the parents' point of view, monitoring where they drive to, monitoring who they drive with, driving with them. The more supervision the parents can give to drivers, especially when they're new, they're learning the roadways, they're learning, how fast can you take this turn or this appropriate speed limit for this railroad crossing or things like that, that as they're learning that supervision from the parents is really important. They only gain experience through doing, but it should be supervised and monitored and also modeled after. So parents should model after.
Great advice. Great advice. And you brought up a factor that, and perhaps Chief Mawhinney can touch on this as well, who they're with in their vehicles. Are there specific laws that govern with regards to junior licenses as far as who can be in that vehicle?
Yesterday, Christine mentioned that the uptick in drivers, when they get more kids in the car, more likely to have an accident. They're challenged more, they're dared more, and they're trying to show off their machoism more.
And they're distracted more.
More music, more talk, more conversation. One thing that you mentioned, the app on the phone. The app to monitor your child is so easy now. I mean, my mom had no idea where I was at 74 and 75. Well, now you know exactly where your child is. Stop laughing at the numbers. Okay. So today, you can know where your child is, how fast they're going, and if they're with somebody who is going too fast. Maybe your child's the passenger in the car. And you look down and look at your app and see that car is doing 80 mile an hour in a Levittown section. Text your child and say, call me, tell me where you're at, I will come and get you now. And don't be afraid to punish your children. If you see on the phone that your child is doing a high speed, don't be afraid to take the car away from him. Make him respect him and make him realize that you will do it and you're watching.
That was one of the pieces of evidence that we had in that Lower Makefield crash. One of the passengers' parents had Life 360 on their kid's phone, and they were able to see and send us screenshots. Heartbreaking event. The app monitored the speed. So that was just additional corroboration that we had as to how fast the vehicle was going, but that the parents of one of the passengers had access to that information as well.
I think that's such an important point to convey. It's not just when your teen is the driver, but when your teen is likely to be a passenger in someone else's vehicle, to have access to that information so you can have the discussion beforehand, to give them the power to speak up, and put it on the parents. Blame the parents. My parents are fanatical. They have an app that tracks me. So I'm sorry, they're going to know if you're going too fast. You're going to have to pull over. So, hey, just drive the speed limit. It's an easy way to kind of spread the responsibility and blame the parents, and then it gives the child the ability to kind of speak up. So I think those are such key details that we need to share to our community. At the end of the day, we want all of our loved ones to get home safe. We want everyone to be safe on the road. We want pedestrians to be safe on the road. And obviously with speed, we know pedestrians are at such a higher risk, even as you increase 5 miles per hour over, with each incremental increase of speed, reduces the likelihood of a pedestrian's survival. So I can't thank you both enough for what you do. I know you have seen the unimaginable, and few people have the strength to do what you do because of that. But because of you, we're able to hold people accountable, but we're also able to raise awareness thanks to your collective expertise. So really, you have my gratitude, and thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you. It's been a privilege.
You're welcome.
Thank you.